Good morning, everybody. I want to talk to you about rage in this video. The reason I'm thinking about this today is a comment I had on one of my videos a couple of days ago. It's a new Tekken player basically saying that he thinks that rage arts are an overpowered mechanic and that they're extremely unfair. He was saying that right now a round of Tekken is basically just a race to see who can spam their rage art out the fastest, and then that person takes the round. Now that's obviously not the way rage arts work, and spamming your rage art out is not an effective way at all of using your rage. But the comment made me think about the different ways you can strategize around using your rage effectively, and so I wanted to make a video talking a little bit about that. And I think this is especially useful if you are a new player and you haven't thought about these things yet, because it is a very, very dangerous and bad thing to try and spam out your rage art. There are only really 3 situations you should ever really even consider using your rage art in this game. The first one is as a whiff punisher. Now this can be a little bit difficult to do. A rage art typically has quite a few frames of startup, so you will need quite a big whiff or very good reaction time to pull the rage art off as a whiff punisher. It is definitely possible, and when you do it you should feel good about it because it's not all that easy to do. The second and probably the most common way to successfully use your rage art is to extend the damage of a combo. You can do a normal combo and then after the spin usually, or after some kind of floaty move with some characters, you can use your rage art and then tack on extra damage at the end of your combo. Now, because of the way damage scaling works in this game, that is not going to give you as much damage as you may think, and in most situations, especially if you're playing on a stage that has walls, there might be more effective ways for you to combo. But if you're on a wall-less stage or in some kind of situation where the optimal use of your rage art, especially if it's going to give you the kill, it can be a useful way to use your rage art. So I'm going to show you an example of a vanilla combo and then modifying that combo to end with a rage art. And you should compare the damage here to see that while there is a difference, it's not as big as you might expect. So, as you can see, it's very possible to use a rage art as a combo ender to get extra damage. The reason I'm saying I don't think it's supremely useful, however, is that depending on what character you're playing and what stage you're on, you can actually get a lot more damage out of your combo by getting a little bit creative. Now, unlike rage arts, which are very universal, rage drives are extremely character specific, and some of them synergize heavily with combos, while some others don't synergize with combos at all. Some of them are used to extend combos in the way we did with the rage art here, but will allow you more damage than the actual rage art, and some are only useful when you're at the wall. Or maybe you're like me and you play Elisa and Miguel. Elisa doesn't have a rage drive and Miguel effectively doesn't have a rage drive because of how bad it is. So this is going to depend entirely on what character you're playing. But the example I want to show you next is I want to give you 3 different combos with Kazumi, and I want you to keep attention to how much damage they deal. The interesting thing is that the combo that ends with a rage art is going to be by far the combo that does the least damage. And this is just to illustrate the fact that you need to be very aware with what options for comboing and what options for spending your rage that your character has specifically, because just using the rage art might actually be a very risky and very wasteful way of using your rage. So let's take a look at these combos now before we continue. Now, the third and final way of using your Rage Shard is the one that gets attempted the most in low rank play, and it's by far the riskiest. It's using the armor properties of the Rage Shard to go through your opponent's move and trying to connect that way. Now, the reason this is so risky, as you probably know, is that if you get a Rage Shard blocked, it's basically going to get you killed 100% of the time. It's kind of the in-game equivalent of premature ejaculation, and it's very embarrassing. It's not something that you should be doing a lot. And it's something that is going to get you destroyed when you start playing at slightly higher ranks. If you're very confident that you have a window in the middle of a string where you can get the Rage Art out, it is a good way of using it, but you need to have some sort of read, and then you pretty much gamble. If you're correct and you had a solid read and it worked, then that's fine, but just be aware that you're taking a very, very high risk when you're choosing to use your Rage Art this way, and I think your success rate is probably going to be higher if you just leave the Rage Art out of your mind and try and actually overcome your opponent with fundamentals. That's usually a better way of doing it, but not necessarily. Now, the last thing we need to talk about here is the concept of baiting Rage Arts out. This is something that becomes more and more common the higher level you get as a player, and it's something that you definitely need to be aware of. Now, I play a lot of Miguel, and people tend to try and use Rage Arts against Miguel in extremely specific situations. He has a 1+2 throw where he punches his opponent several times and then he leaves them standing right in front of him at a frame disadvantage. Now, that's a very good position to be in for Miguel because he can go straight into a mix-up. It also means that the opponent is very likely to panic straight into a Rage Art, and so very, very often, I mean several times every single time I have a session with Miguel online, I do that throw and I see my opponent panic into a Rage Art, and so I use that to bait out Rage Arts and then just block punish them to take the round that way. And so I want you to think a lot about situations you tend to get Rage Arted against when you're using your character, and then maybe try and start to set up a bait using that situation. If you do that, it's going to feel really, really good because it's completely a case of you thinking circles around your opponent, and in the end I think proper Tekken play is about that kind of thing a lot of the time. So I'm going to show you several examples because I have so many clips of this lying around because it's so common for people to try and Rage Art in this situation, just as an example of how baiting Rage Arts can work. That's going to be the end of the video, and hopefully if you think that Rage Art is something that you should just spam up to try and steal rounds, this video gave you something to think about in terms of how to strategize properly with your Rage. I hope it was enjoyable. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again very soon.